Joining me, an expert. Lisa Dietlin, a Chicago-based, internationally based expert on philanthropy, charity giving. You see her all the time. Actually, you'll see her on My Politics Tonight show from time to time. You'll read her work in print and media. She's written 5 books, including The Power of 3, How to Achieve Your Goals by Simply Doing 3 Things a Day. You know, I tried to come up with 3 things a day today, Lisa, but so far I've just eaten breakfast, had coffee, and saying hi to you. Does that count?
That counts. You can just take it easy for the rest of the day.
I was hoping that's what you meant.
Absolutely.
Hey, so, as I said, we're doing this topic today, end of year giving, because this is about end of year deductions. Who is it that needs to be thinking about this? And what I mean by that is we just had a new tax bill passed. Does that matter to us right now?
It does. In the sense of future planning, everybody needs to be thinking about what they want to do charitably. I always say, don't let guilt drive your charitable decisions. Make a plan of action. And if you haven't made a plan of action, there's still time. You have till December 31st at 11:59 p.m. to make a donation.
And wait, I got it right there. So do I have to have it postmarked? Do they have to have it received by 11:59? What has to happen by December 31st, just before midnight?
What has to happen is that it has left your control and is on the way to the nonprofit. And what I mean is, if it's a donation via mail, yes, it has to be postmarked. It doesn't have to have arrived at the nonprofit organization, because if we know December 31st is Sunday and we don't have mail delivery on Sunday, so don't have to panic about that. But the postmark has to say December 31st before 11:59 p.m. If you're making a trade, say you have appreciated securities because the stock market has done so well this year and you want to make a donation, we recommend you make that trade a few days before, probably today or tomorrow, to make sure that the trade has actually happened. And again, the money has left your account, your mutual fund, and is on its way to the nonprofit organization. Same thing with a credit card donation. Make sure it has left your inbox and it's on its way for that donation to be made.
And if you're selling stocks, by the way, there's also another reason. Again, this is end of year decisions. This has been a very good year, right? Regardless of what you think about anything else politically, the market is doing really well. What happens if you make a donation today while market is good, and I know you're trying to avoid the gains, but then, the market kind of drops in the next few days? Does it then cost you, or are you okay?
You're okay. Actually, most nonprofits have a policy that the day the trade is made, that is the day they value your donation. And most nonprofit organizations actually sell the stock on the day they receive it. They're not in the business of playing in the stock market. So if you had 100 shares of Apple, and honestly, I don't know what Apple's trades for, but say it trades for $1,000 a share, and you have $10,000 that you're donating, or $100,000, to be $100,000 you're donating, that charity would receive a gift of $100,000. But say you only paid $100 for it. You avoid that $900 capital gains tax on each of those shares of stock that you donate, and you actually get a charitable deduction.
So it actually, if you want to make the donation, it is to your advantage to do it while the stock is high.
Correct. If you purchased when it was low.
All right, smart. Now, I'm getting pitches.
Is your inbox like mine?
Oh my!
Your mailbox, your inbox, everybody.
Both. And look, and I know you, and I give a lot of money to charity. It's very important to me to give. But word gets out. I think when you donate money, the rest of the world finds out that you do. Do they have my name on lists?
They do, and I've seen it. No, they actually do. Nonprofit organizations, are always mining. We heard that term, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, data mining. They're always combing through annual reports, or they're, looking at, donor walls, or who's being honored in various newsletters. And when you make a donation and you allow your name to be shared, be aware that somebody else is looking at that and thinking, gosh, if he cares about animals in Cook County, maybe he'll care about animals in DuPage County, or maybe he'll care about kids who need animals, or vets who get to use animals. Well, wait a minute.
They're really thinking about it that much?
Absolutely, because we're always looking. It's when I would consult with my clients, which are nonprofit organizations often, and they'll say, oh my gosh, so-and-so just made $1 million gift to XYZ organization. I go, great, we can be next in line, versus saying, oh gosh, it's gone. Because nobody really gives away their last dollar. Even when Warren Buffett gave away $36 billion to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, probably about 10 years ago now, he still had some money left.
I was thinking he wasn't ordering in dinner that night because he couldn't.
Not the TV dinner, the pot pie, you know?
Yeah. Well, which raises a question, because this conversation, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are thinking, I'm not Warren Buffett. And
Right.
I'm not giving away stocks, and that's
Right.
not me. But I want to encourage people. I mean, what do you say to folks who say, that's all I have to give? I've got a small amount.
Then I say give that. Actually, when numbers are shown, last year, 2016, for which we have numbers, $393 billion was given away. So think about it this way. Basically, every day, $1 billion is given away in this country, donated by people like you and me, and half of it from households with annual income under $100,000. So it is people giving that $10, that $20, that $25, texting to give when there's a disaster. When a neighbor shows up and says, hey, my mom has breast cancer and I'm collecting money for, research, digging in your wallet and giving that $10 or $15. Every dollar counts. I just recommend that people be strategic about what they care about and not allow guilt to drive their philanthropic decisions. And if you have $100, people often say to me, should I give $10 or $100? And I would say give a larger amount to fewer organizations. Maybe you give 4 $25 donations. Maybe you give 2 $50 donations, because that will actually go further in your being able to affect change in the causes you care about.
Which means you have to be making a decision about what you care about. As you said, I care a lot about animal charities and different things like that. Mm-hmm. But that's the kind of decisions people need to make. I think some people might feel guilty if they don't give money to a charitable pitch, maybe a certain school, something like that. They feel they should. But should we feel any guilt?
No. Do not feel guilty. Do not let guilt drive your charitable decisions. So here's a way for listeners to look at it. I often say that we usually have 3 areas most of us give to. Most of us give to a house of worship. Most of us give to an alma mater or a school that we had attended. And we might give to something that our children are involved in. It might be their school. It might be Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. It's an organization. That's our top 3. You can only handle about 3 to 5 organizations if you really want to have an impact. So think about what you care about. Chicago is such a phenomenal city for arts and culture. Do you care about the museums and the Art Institute and the various different, theater we were talking about beforehand?
I do
the
a lot there too. Yeah.
Right. The idea is, do you care about that? Well, then give your dollars there. You don't have to worry that you're not helping the animals because somebody else is like you. You might say, I love all that cultural stuff and I give to that, but my higher priority, if I had to choose, was animals. It's all about making choices and an impact. Most of us cannot give to everything we would want to give to. So we have to make decisions.
I do want to ask one question about the new tax plan. Mm-hmm. So this comes in, and every year when there's tax issues, there's kind of these questions: can I still make charitable donations, and are they deductible? So let's make that clear. They didn't take that away.
They did not take that away. You can still make donations that are deductible on your tax filings.
Okay, and that being said, you and I've had this conversation before. I want to bring it up again because we differ on this.
We do.
I know, yours is research-based, and I can't be bothered with research.
Yes, you do.
But the point that you've said is that people, even if they did take that deduction away, you said people give, it's got nothing to do with that deduction. And I said that I just, in my gut, disagreed. I don't give because of a deduction, but I probably, and I think others, give at certain levels because at least there's a tax benefit for it. And you say research actually doesn't really bear that out.
Research doesn't. There's 2 pieces of research that I always like to share with folks. First of all, survey after survey that's been done by reputable organizations say that most people give because A, they care about the cause, or B, they've been asked by somebody that they know. So your best friend's mom has breast cancer and you decide that you're going to support a breast cancer organization. You've been asked. It's impacted you. You see what it's happened with your friend and with her family, what they're going through. So people give. Those surveys also show that the number ends up being 6 to 7% actually cite the deduction as a reason they're giving. The second is 70% of Americans take the standard deduction. They don't itemize. So even though they're giving to charity, they take the standard deduction. And with the new law passed, it's doubled.
It's doubled. So does that mean fewer people will be taking that deduction?
Fewer people will probably be using it because more people will be taking the standard deduction and not itemizing their taxes. There is some worry out there in the nonprofit field. I don't happen to share that. I think that we're based on this. When America was founded, it was neighbor helping neighbor, and we've had that discussion. And I think when we went through what we went through this fall with hurricanes Harvey, Irma, Maria, we didn't say, oh gosh, are we going to be able to deduct this? I mean, I had people calling me from all parts of this country, high-profile individuals saying, how do I get 5 semi-trucks of water to Puerto Rico, Lisa? But the very successful people were not saying, I've got 5 semi-trucks of water and I want a charitable deduction. Where do I go? They were calling me saying, how do I get this water to Puerto Rico? How do I get these satellite phones to Aguadilla? They were not asking questions about, well, will I be able to deduct this on my taxes? When there's a crisis or when there is a need, think about what we went through in 08 and 09 with the crisis and people being laid off and people losing their homes. When we started giving to food banks and to, home organizations like Habitat for Humanity, we didn't say, are we going to get a charitable deduction? We saw that our neighbor lost their house and we said, we got to do something.
Sometimes you see in the newspaper something, a charity isn't what it's supposed to be. Maybe it's not even legitimate. Or something. How do we know? How do we know if we're giving money to the place that's going to use it for the right thing?
Well, first of all, you have to do your research and you have to pay attention. Just like we're smart shoppers, we need to be smart donors. There's 3 organizations that I recommend that if a nonprofit has come to you, you've received something and you're intrigued, but you're not sure that it's, valid, I would check out 3 sources. One is Charity Navigator. Another one is GuideStar. And the third one is the Better Business Bureau has a Wise Giving Alliance. And
I just want to say, because I do that, because you've advised me to do that, I've done it. Sometimes when I want to give to a charity, sometimes it's a Save the Monkeys thing or something like that. But here's the thing, I'll go to like Charity Navigator and they're not on there. They'll say something, they haven't had enough donations to be
reported. They haven't had enough donations. They might not be national. So many people.
Is that a warning sign?
No, it's not a warning sign, but it's, you have to dig a little deeper. You have to do a little bit more research to see if you can find out about them. The first thing I do is I call. I call to see if somebody actually picks up the phone and if somebody will talk to me about the organization. That's the first thing. I work with a lot of nonprofit organizations and they're all about who's in the office this week to pick up the phone to talk to somebody. Second is actually look at if you say, gosh, I don't have time to do that. I'm on the fly. I'm on my mobile phone. I'm on my computer. Look at that URL address really closely, and I actually, when somebody sends me an email with an embedded URL in it, I don't click on that. If it's something I care about, I'll actually Google it and see if I can find it myself. Because again, the hackers are really, really smart and they can add a $sign or a dot, or it can change it from a .org to a .com or a .net, and all of a sudden it looks legitimate, but it's not. So if you receive something in email or even something in the mail and you're intrigued by it, it's something you haven't heard about before. When Princess Diana was about the campaign to end landmines, I was intrigued by that. And this is pre the internet. If I got it today, I might still be intrigued, but say, I'm not going to, click on what they sent me. I'm going to go and do some research and see if I can find out, is this legitimate? And usually it only takes a couple of minutes to find out that it is legitimate and that you are giving to the right source.
And here's the other thing, at least in my own research in this, something can be also legitimate, but still raise questions. And here's what I have in mind. There are some charities that I've looked at that when I go online, they're legitimate. You can make, but 80% of the money, the report shows, is going to marketing and advertising and overhead. And I mean, I'm not an expert like you are, but I'm thinking that's an awful lot of money not going to the people that I thought I was donating to.
Correct. And there's a whole debate in the nonprofit field about what is the right number. I would share with your listeners, 15 to 25 cents on a dollar going to overhead is not bad. It's not bad at all. If it's a new charity, it could be up to 50 cents on a dollar. You have to be smart. You think about your income, your check size. Could you live and operate everything that you have on 15 to 25% of what you bring in? So that's one little, for your own checking it. It's also how it's coded. So think about a legal aid. I had that same question with a client, a legal aid clinic, and it was all going to overhead. But it's lawyers they're paying. That's the program.
Well,
they're paying their salary.
I'm a lawyer. I got to make sure my people take care of my people.
Absolutely. But, you actually have to look at the mission. If the mission is we're hiring people to do the work, and our mission, our program is actually paying salaries so that these people can actually do the work. And then, did it get filed correctly or not? But, you have to be a smart donor.
You know, we talked a little bit before about giving things you care about, and we talked about animals. But, you know, one of the things, the charity comes to my mind. My dad is a World War II vet, still with us at 92.
Oh,
and
great.
So years ago, I found out about Honor Flight. WGN had did a special on it, and I thought, what an incredible thing. I took my dad on Honor Flight.
Oh.
It was a wonderful experience to go to Washington for the day to see the memorial, but here's the point. It's a not-for-profit. They need help. So I found myself, because I want to honor my dad and because I learned to care about something new, I give to that. Is that what propels people?
That is often the way, beyond what I described earlier, you know, your house of worship, your alma mater, your kids' activity, that people get involved. You know, I happened to be on a flight and read about the Wounded Warrior Project.
Yeah.
Same thing about it started out with backpacks that these soldiers would come back from the wars in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and they would, you know, not have gum or a calling card when we had calling cards, or have a CD player, and they would put these backpacks together. And that's how we learn about organizations as they grow, and then they become household names. You know, when Habitat for Humanity started, I mean, long before former President Jimmy Carter got involved, it existed and built homes, and it was day by day that they became a household name.
So if people want to donate, they can do it by writing a check. One of the things I know you advise is don't send cash.
No.
Forget about it even just, you know, that somebody might take it, but there's no record of that.
You're right. We do not recommend sending cash. Now, of course, we all have, this
There's
is
the
the time of the year
Salvation
when
Army
you have the
bucket.
red kettle buckets, and that's a little bit different, and we're all waiting for that, gold Cougaran that shows up every year.
I'm looking for one.
Who does that? We want to know that donor's name. No, but we don't recommend cash. Don't send cash. You know, write a check. If you have a credit card or a debit card, make it that way. If you have appreciated stocks and securities, I have friends that are cleaning out their closets this holiday season, realizing they have way too much stuff, especially extra coats when it's a bitter cold day like this, mittens, hats, gloves. Make those donations to charitable organizations. Call ahead. You can also give your time.
And keep a receipt, right? I mean, if you get audited, if I say I'm donating a lot of money, I better be able to prove it.
Absolutely. And the charity should automatically send you a receipt if it's over $250. That is required by the IRS. They're getting stricter, especially about those items you donate. You know, we can't just say, well, I took 2, pickup truck loads of furniture to the Salvation Army. You actually have to say, I took this much to this thrift store, and I had these many items, and here's the condition it was in.
By the way, very briefly, that's such a great point. Some people say I've donated my old shirts and my old whatever, and they want to deduct like what they paid for the shirts.
They can't. They can't. They can deduct what the value would be, and depending on the condition it's in, but they can't deduct what they actually paid for it, because even if it has the tags on it, you're making a donation to charity. And another thing you can do at this time of year is also shop at those thrift stores. You know, there's, I often get my serving platters and flatware and what have you that I'm going to use for holiday parties or, summer parties or whatever at thrift stores. And it's amazing because you can also support a charity that way.
You do such great stuff. Lisa, people that want advice from you or want to work with you as an organization, how do they reach you?
They can reach me on my website, lisadietlin.com.
And how do you spell that?
Oh, everybody wants to know that. It's Lisa, the traditional spelling, Lisadietlin.